Hello, you're watching the Creation Liberty Hour. This is show number 8 for September 26, 2011. My name is Chris Johnson, and I'm the founder of Creation Liberty Evangelism. It's at www.creationliberty.com, and our ministry's purpose is to win the lost to Christ by spreading the gospel message and the creation message, and spreading the truth of God's Word. We also hold to the position that evolution is the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the history of mankind. We don't believe it's just a dumb theory, it's a dangerous religion. So today I'm going to be operating by myself. We have an awful lot of people that are busy today. So I'm going to be going over a little bit different stuff. We're kind of changing up the show a little bit. First I want to make an announcement that next week there will be no show for October 3rd. I'm going to be speaking that night at the Waldron Restaurant in Waldron, Indiana. If you'd like to come, if you're in the area and you'd like to come by, just go ahead and stop by. It's the only restaurant in town. It's like right by the only traffic light in the town. And they're having some discounts on some barbecue ribs and some fried fish, so come on in and get something to eat, and you can sit down and watch the presentation. It's free of charge. There's no charge to you whatsoever, so come on out. So today what we're going to do is start covering some of the, I've been going over a few of the different comments and videos of things I find on YouTube and other places. And I'm going to cover a few things that I'm starting to notice, and I just have to say, I really do try to take these evolutionists seriously. I honestly do. I want to win them to Christ. I really do. But some of the stuff they say and do is so hilarious, you can't help but laugh. So what I'm going to cover first is, I guess it's a guy named Unrealistix. Now, when I checked out his, this is a YouTube username, Unrealistix, Unrealistix. I checked out his YouTube account. It could be a fake account, I'm not sure, because it was opened up like a week ago, and it says he's from Ireland. I don't know, that might be true, I have no idea. But this guy, he responded to another video in which they were trying to basically, go over or respond rebuttal to some of the stuff that I had talked about concerning star formation. And that's where we talk about Boyle's gas law is something that's a law they have to basically ignore or just overlook, and they have to do that in order to believe that star evolution can happen. His quotation, I'll explain all this in just a second. Let me get to his quotation. I want to read this. He started off saying, "Tell me, did you consider genes' instability in relation to Boyle's law?" Now, stop right here before we continue with this comment. Genes' instability is a theoretical mathematical equation that is supposed to explain how a star should maintain itself in gravitational collapse. Okay, well, we'll get to that in a second. But he continues and says, "Now, if you like the idea of Boyle's law," stop there again, "it's not about whether or not I like it. I'm saying it's a law. This is something repeatable and testable. That's how things become a law." He says, "If you like the idea of Boyle's law, then that's just super. Boyle's law can be condensed into a simple math formula, but so can genes' instability." Well, first of all, number one, what does that have to do with anything? And I explain in my videos, well, I'll get to that in a second. I shouldn't really get ahead of myself. It really doesn't have anything to do with anything. And he's missing a much bigger point. Boyle's law is a law because it's repeatable, testable science. Genes' instability is a theory that, nobody really knows. I'll get to that in a second. But he said, thankfully, for all of us, genes' instability is counteracted by Boyle's law. Otherwise, every star in the universe would implode. Now, would you like to correct yourself in your video since you have new information? I doubt it. End quote. So, some points to consider. Number one, I don't need to correct this information because there's nothing to correct. Now, I don't know what your name is, sir, but you need to stop and really think about what you're saying before you continue here, because there's some points we need to consider. First of all, he's replying, the portion of the video he's replying to. Let me explain this. Boyle's gas law. If you have a bunch of gases out in space that are supposed to condense, now what they'll do is they look out into space and they see a gas cloud. And they look at the gas cloud and they're like, wow, a star is going to form from that. That's what the evolutionists claim. Looking at a gas cloud and saying stars are going to form out of that is a really big jump to make. Because according to Boyle's gas law, as gases would get closer together, as the pressure increases, which will increase the heat, and the Brownian motion and Boyle's, basically Brownian motion, kinetic energy, drives them apart again. So Brownian motion is just like, if you're looking around your house, and I don't know if you've ever seen in the afternoon, you look around your house and there's dust particles, and the particles are always moving. They're moving in all sorts of random directions. That's because there's particles in the air that are constantly moving in all sorts of random directions. And that's what's called Brownian motion. So with Brownian motion and the kinetic energy, it's going to drive them apart again. Let's take the example of a balloon. If you blow up a balloon, stick it in the, tie it up, leave it in the sun, or under a heat lamp or something like that, you will notice it will expand and usually burst if it gets too hot or you leave it there too long. It's going to explode because as everything expands under with the heat pressure. Then if you take a balloon, blow it up, tie it up, put it in the refrigerator, it will shrink, because as it gets colder, it's going to shrink down. So as you have all these gases in space, as they're starting to get more and more clumped up, it increases the amount of heat, which increases the pressure, which increases the heat, and that drives them apart again. And the thing is, with these gases, they're not going to go into the place of most resistance. The gas is going to escape into places of least resistance. This is like, when I talked about the other week about how oil wells, they're losing their pressure over time. So every year, less and less pressure on these high pressure zones, high pressure zones of oil. The rock can't hold that pressure forever. So in order to explain this, I've heard evolutionists will say, well, maybe oil migrated into these high pressure zones. All right, let's put a balloon, just get a regular balloon, not blown up, just a regular, flappy little balloon, stick it on a table. How long is it going to take for air to migrate into the balloon and blow itself up? It is never going to happen, okay? It doesn't matter how long you leave it sit there. The air is going to escape to the path of least resistance. And when evolutionists tell me, well, maybe oil migrated into these high pressure zones, I'm like, yeah, and a balloon blows itself up too. The oil is going to migrate to the path of least resistance, not to the point of highest pressure. That's the path of most resistance. So these gases, as they're getting together, the problem is you're not going to have, you're saying that all the gas is migrating into a high pressure zone. Well, for what reason? Well, if you want to claim gravity, you can't claim that yet, because according to this Jeans instability that they're talking about, this is where, what they claim is how a star can form. They say all these gases out in space clump together, and it gets more and more pressure and more and more pressure, and finally there's so much pressure, gravity just sucks everything in, and poof, there you have a star. That's the basis of what they're claiming. So you can't have Jeans instability until you have gravitational collapse, first of all. And then the problem is, that's trying to talk about how it can be maintained. Well, you've simply ignored, if you're going to say, well, Jeans instability is how we can get stars, you're ignoring Boyle's gas law to go into this. So what you're doing is you're ignoring the laws of physics in order to go into your theory of how you think it happened. I don't care how you think it happened, okay? I'm saying here are the facts. The gases can't get together to do that. And even if you want to claim, well, gravity can suck them all in, where's the gravity coming from? They don't have an answer for this. They have excuses, but they don't have an answer for this one. There's no conceivable way. You can't even imagine how a star could form in your mind. There's no way to even imagine how that's possible. But they have to believe in it because there again, you have to have star formation over millions of years of time because they need millions of years to make their evolution theory work, and there's the problem. So anyhow, let me check my notes here. Jeans instability, yeah, it would have to come after the limitations of Boyle's gas law. So, again, Boyle's gas law is proven, and Jeans instability is theoretical. Okay, and so you have some really big problems. If you're trying to argue your theory against the law that I'm pointing out, you're the one with the problem. And it's not something I have to fix. I think you need to figure out what exactly it is that you believe. Let me see here. Laws overcome, and again, this is where I point out that basically evolution has to defy all known laws of thermodynamics and physics. They have, I mean, they have hundreds and hundreds of theories on all sorts of things, but you have to defy the laws, the known scientific laws, in order to believe in evolution and then come up with your theories on how you think it happened. The only reason they do this is because if they don't come up with an explanation on how, this stuff happens, because I've always wondered, I have a question for the evolutionist. Why, if you don't know, why can't you just say you don't know and that you don't have an explanation? I rarely ever hear evolutionists do this. Just say, we don't know, we don't have an explanation for that one. Because the creationist steps up and says, well, I do have an explanation for this. And you see, in order for them not to give any credibility to the Bible, give any credibility to God's Word or Christians or creationists, they have to have an excuse. They have to have something else they can talk about besides God created the world. So in order to get rid of that, that's what they're required to do, that kind of thing. So anyhow, I also want to go over, I just wanted to answer to this guy. If you want to check out his account, you can go on YouTube, search for that, and talk to him yourself if you'd like. So the next thing I wanted to cover, let me bring it up here. There's a guy by the name of, there's an evolutionist called Potholer54. Potholer54. You can go look him up if you'd like. Actually, let me go to his channel. I didn't have this brought up, but I think I ought to go here. And everybody in the chat room, can everybody hear me okay? If whoever's online, if you want to take a stab at it, just let me know if you can hear me okay. But I'll check back on that in just a moment. And let's see here. Okay, yeah, I've checked this guy out, and let's see. I'm just looking this. I should have had this opened up beforehand. This guy apparently, I'll tell you a little bit about him. He's got, let's see here, he's got like 50,000 subscribers. The atheists love this guy, and according to his bio here, he says that he has been a journalist for 20 years and a science correspondent for 14 years with his degree in geology. So we're not dealing with someone who's just, claiming, well, I don't know too much about the issue. He is claiming that he knows a lot about this issue. And I've looked at some of his videos, and I've laughed at them more than anything. I thought at first, when I first saw his website, that he just had a joke website, that he was, parody. But this guy takes this stuff seriously. I didn't really realize this, and I want to cover, a couple things. This is the guy that I had talked about a few weeks back that had made a video, and the video is called "How to Confuse a Creationist -1." That you can take a look at for yourself. That has one of my videos that he is, trying to, I guess, parody a bit. I don't know if that's the word you'd call it. But basically, he puts some of my phrasing and my words next to Dr. Kent Hovind in his seminars. For their website is creationtoday.org. You can check them out if you'd like. And he puts them next to that and compares the two and says they are making the same argument word for word. Well, and this is where I pointed out before that he's only proving, and I made the comment one time, I said, thank you for posting this, you're really helping me out, and this is a big help to me. Because I can show people this and demonstrate to the evolutionists, by their own logic, they know that their evolution theory cannot be true. Logically, it doesn't make any sense. Because what they do is they compare two different kinds of animals, and they say, wow, do you see the similarities between these two animals? That must conclude that they had a common ancestor millions of years ago, and by random chance mutations over millions of years became what they are today. It's interesting that he looked at Dr. Kent Hovind's presentation, looked at my presentation, saw similarity, and immediately concluded there's a common designer to the two. Amazing that he doesn't even realize his own logic is telling him he knows, his own logic is showing him that evolution doesn't have any logical merit to it. It's only giving credibility to the creationist. And I do appreciate him posting that, because now I can use this video and show the evolutionists that they are demonstrating with their own logic. They know that evolution cannot, similarities do not prove common ancestry. They prove common design just by simple logic. Now, of course, I do have evolutionists. I do need to make mention of this. Evolutionists constantly tell me, you're plagiarizing Kent Hovind's material. Okay, number one, No, I'm not. I am making this argument myself. I have done the research. I owe a lot to a lot of people. I do owe a lot to Dr. Kent Hovind. Also, Dr. Chuck Missler. I make arguments that he makes, but nobody puts videos up about that. I make arguments that Dr. Walter Brown makes, but nobody puts any videos about that. I do about, Dr. Bruce Malone. Who else? I'm thinking... Dr. Dennis Swift. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people. I'd have to think of a bunch of them off the top of my head here, who I owe credit to because I read a whole lot of material. Now, this is my argument. I am making this argument. If you have a problem with the argument, then you come talk to me. None of this ad hominem attack and straw man attacks and all this other, straw man arguments and all this stuff that they make. But they continue to do this. And I have to point out a couple of funny things that he put in this video. You're welcome to go look up the video and check it out if you like. I'm starting at the 7 minute 15-second mark. That's correct. So if you want to go into this video and check it out, this is where I'm starting. I want to play just a little bit of this, and we'll discuss it here. So let's take a listen.
Or maybe not. Having gone on at length about the impossibility of a supernatural event like a dog producing a non-dog, Johnson then turns around and professes his belief in the supernatural.
Stop right there for a moment. That is a potholer, or whatever your name is. I don't know. You said you were a journalist or whatever. Apparently, that is absolutely correct. I do. And what he does is he holds this in some sort of shock, like, oh, he believes in something the supernatural? Well, duh. I mean, as a journalist for 20 years, you ought to have a little more common sense than that. I mean, here, if you have a creationist, I don't know, I guess maybe he's been talking to the wrong people, because if you have a creationist that says, I can prove scientifically that God created the world, I want to talk to him. Because I will contend with them, that's incorrect. Science cannot prove that God created the world. Okay? In fact, science is not going to prove anything coming into existence of time, space, and matter, because time, space, and matter is the natural world around us. And to go beyond time, space, and matter is to go into supernatural, okay? Which I'm going to get to in a minute, because he's going to say some strange stuff here. But yes, this is exactly what I talked about, and he's going to quote me here on the video, and then he'll say something else. So let's go ahead and listen a little bit further.
I can provide evidence of the Bible being true and logical evidence of a creator, but I cannot prove it scientifically because science only deals with the physical and material world. They can't test supernatural things.
Oh, well, allow me to retort.
Of course, science can test supernatural things.
He just said, in case you didn't hear that, science can test supernatural things. Think about that for just a second. If you are not laughing right now, I think you need to think about it just a little bit more. I laughed so hard as soon as I heard this because I was shocked that a science correspondent for 14 years would say such a thing. The definition of supernatural, as I have said many times, this is also documented on my website. I have an article called Evolution, a New Age Religion. Go read that in the article section on our website. You can check this out for yourself, okay? The problem is the evolutionists have never... they always change the topic. They never actually address when I give them the proper definitions of things and show them what they believe is a religion. But here, the definition of supernatural, nature is what we can observe, what you can smell, see, taste, touch, feel. That is nature, okay? Natural things. Anything that goes beyond that, outside of your senses, what you can see and taste, smell, touch, and all that, that goes into the supernatural. What goes outside of time, space, and matter is in the supernatural. It cannot be proven by science. Now, I know what they're going to come back with. They're going to say, well, you can't see X-rays. Yes, but we can see the result of X-rays. There are things that leaves evidence for this. So, but what he just said is that something that goes outside of time, space, and matter, something you cannot see, touch, taste, smell, feel, can be tested by science. So, Potholer, would you please give us an example? And he does right here. He has a picture of a rainbow. Let's take a listen.
When this supernatural phenomenon was tested by science, it was found to be caused by the refraction of light in water droplets.
He just said a rainbow is supernatural. This man believes a rainbow is supernatural. This is a guy that's supposed to be a journalist in Australia for 20 years and a science correspondent with a degree in geology, and he thinks rainbows are supernatural. Folks, this is almost stupid. I even have to say this on my stream, but you can see rainbows. They're not outside the realm of science. This guy cracks me up. I'm sorry, I'm trying to take him seriously, but this is kind of crazy. Then, listen to what he states next.
It was once thought there was a supernatural flood that covered the earth. That was also tested by science and found to be wrong.
Two problems here. Number one, he just said that a flood was thought to be supernatural. How are floods supernatural? Can we not see and feel, and can we not experiment? I mean, floods are observational. That's part of science. This guy believes that floods are supernatural. And the atheists take this guy seriously? Man, if these skeptics would just be skeptical of the evolutionists for 30 seconds, it would just blow them away. But they're only skeptical of everything except the evolution theory. They refuse to be skeptical of that because it's the only explanation that gives them freedom from God. Then he said, scientific evidence, or let me go back there. I got to hear this again, just to make sure I quote this properly. I don't want to misquote this.
It was a supernatural flood that covered the earth. That was also tested by science and found to be wrong.
Here's another couple problems. He said, that was tested by science and found to be wrong. What he's saying is a worldwide flood was tested by science. Now, number one, this is what you call a logical fallacy. It's something called rarefication. I forget how to spell that. Rarefication. Type that into Google. Rarefication. Just type in logical fallacy, rarefication. This is where he's giving a non-living entity a personality. Science is not a living entity. Science does not test things. Science does not draw conclusions. People test things. People draw conclusions. Scientific method is a method we use. It is not a living entity. This is a logical fallacy where he's giving this. Then he makes a really vague statement. And his statement is, well, this was proven wrong. You know, it was proven false that there was no worldwide flood on this planet. Okay, look, to all you evolutionists who are listening out there, I have heard this time and time and time again, okay, that, you know, the evidence shows there was absolutely no flood on this planet. Okay, show me. I have heard so many evolutionists do the same thing that this potholer guy does. Is so vague. They just make these vague statements and say, science has proven this. Show me. I would love to see your scientific evidence that says that there is no flood. Now here's the thing. You can take a jar, get a big jar, okay, clear jar, go out and find different types of soil. Get some gravel, get some sand, get some soil, different things like that, a bunch of different types. Fill the rest of it with water, shake the whole thing up, and set it down on the table, and watch what happens. It will settle out into layers for you automatically, and will sort them based upon their density, and it's called liquefaction. And in some places, cavitation, depending on if you're, you know, doing it with earthquakes and things like that. But there is a sorting to these things. It's called hydrologic sorting. Okay, the liquefaction and cavitation are the processes by which that's done, but it's actually called hydrologic sorting. And this is an experiment. That's something that you can go out in your backyard right now, and you can run this experiment and prove that. Now, when you put that on a large scale, you've got exactly what you find all over the earth. We have tons of layers of rock everywhere. Yet I have never seen any logical evolutionary explanations on how one type of sediment would be laid down in these dust layers for millions and millions of years and then suddenly stop and a new one start the next one. Nobody has even come up with any conceivable imagination process on how this could even possibly happen, but they believe it anyway, because they need to give no credibility to the flood model and the biblical model. They need that because they need freedom from God. I'm telling you, it's not because of their logic, it's because of their lust. It's not because of their science, it's because of their sin. That's why they're making all these arguments. Now, this potholer guy, I would guarantee you, has no scientific backup to say there was not a flood on this earth. And I would love to see it if he does. And if you're watching this, man, just send it on my way. In fact, I'm going to invite this potholer guy as soon as we can get, because right now I'm trying to save money for a laptop. What you're seeing right now, I had to borrow somebody's laptop. My wife's in Ohio right now, and I had to borrow somebody's laptop to do this thing on, because my laptop can't handle a live stream like this. But once we get a better one for myself that I can use, I'm going to start taking live Skype calls, and we're going to invite some evolutionists on. This is one of the guys I'm going to invite onto the show. I would love to do that. And have him live on here to talk about some of these issues, because I would love to see the scientific evidence where he says this. Now, I could have a dumb theory, okay? For the evolutionists, I want you to understand this. Look, I'm trying hard not to laugh at you, because a lot of you guys are really intelligent guys, but just completely sold into this evolution theory. And I strongly believe, after many years of talking to evolutionists, you're sold into it because it gives you freedom from God, freedom from rules, that you don't want any of these rules, like, thou shalt not commit adultery, or thou shalt not steal, or things like that. You don't like these rules, and you want freedom from those rules, and these are the excuses that you give in order to, and then they always argue in majority opinion afterwards, usually, which they think if a majority believes in it, it somehow magically becomes true, and that's ridiculous too. Look, I could have a dumb theory. Let's say I had a dumb theory where the moon is made of blue cheese. That is a dumb theory, okay? Now, I don't really have that theory, but let's just say for a moment that I did. And, I could go around talking about how the moon's made of blue cheese, and you say, oh, well, that's, ridiculous. Now, but what if I went online and I say scientists have gone to the moon and they have found that the moon is made of blue cheese? Okay, it's all right to have a dumb theory. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's not all right to go and lie. It's to claim I have evidence for my dumb theory. And I know you guys would agree with that. It would not be okay for me to lie about that stuff. So for the evolutionists, I would say it's also not okay to lie about this stuff, because I think this potholer guy, now I'm not going to go conclusively and say he's a liar. The guy may honestly be ignorant. However, it is a little hard to believe that the man is ignorant after 20 years being a journalist, 14 years as a science correspondent, having a degree in geology, that the man would be this ignorant on some of these issues. I don't know, it's possible he could be lying here, but I know that he doesn't have, he believes that rainbows are supernatural? You have got to be joking. This is one of the biggest, oh man, I'm having a hard time with this one. So, let's see here, I'm checking to see if we got any questions. We don't have many people in the chat room this time. Generally, we're having a little bit, so many people are busy. Let's just make statements that are the same word for word. Yeah, and and I agree. Actually, Lorraine is on here. She was on for a little bit from Ohio, and she made a very good point because she couldn't be here. She says evolutionists make statements that are the same word for word. Exactly correct. Evolutionists all the time make arguments that are the same word for word. But I want to read to you something on Potholer's. Let's see here, where he's putting a posting about when people post certain things. He talks about plagiarism, and he says, if you copy and paste someone else's work, don't pretend that the writing is yours. I agree. He says, put it in quotation marks and give the author credit. Hard to believe, but the fundamentalists, this is him, I'm quoting him, okay? He says, but the fundamentalists who have done this cannot understand when I explain that what they are doing is deceitful and intellectually shallow. Now, first of all, I know this part of this, he'll aim at people like me. Well, if you think I am plagiarizing work and I'm doing so illegally, or if there's something that I'm taking that I shouldn't be doing, I want you to contact Dr. Kent Hovind. I want you to contact Eric Hovind. Contact them at creationtoday.org. They just hired on some new people that they were answering questions. Contact them and complain about it. Okay? I know Eric personally. I have never met Dr. Kent Hovind, but I encourage you to write them or call them, contact them, and complain about it, okay? Let them know, what I'm doing, and help them get involved to, stop me in whatever I'm doing if that's what you want to do, okay? You can go waste your time all you want. But I talked with Eric, and Eric said, look, you can take whatever you want and use it for whatever you want. Go for it. He encouraged us he has helped us in the past be able to establish our ministry up here. They have donated to us, and I really appreciate their help of trying to establish our ministry up here. But here, I found this very interesting. The potholer guy would say this. He says, learn some facts, then use your own arguments. Think about what he's implying here. He is strongly implying if you say something, if you make an argument that someone else has made, you're plagiarizing. Are you joking? Wow, okay, it's like, okay, and it doesn't matter what theory that you come up with. Somebody has probably said something similar in the past. That means everybody's plagiarizing everybody. And that also means the evolutionists are doing the same, because they come up with the same arguments word for word, I kid you not. Every time I hear, just like this guy, he's saying this exact same things Kent Hovind's saying. Tons of evolutionists have said the same thing, and they're all proving themselves wrong. They're actually proving their own theory wrong by arguing by making that argument. It's actually it's an argument about changing the subject. It's not really addressing the arguments I've made. It's basically complaining that, oh wow, we thought we got rid of Kent Hovind and now we have to deal with this stuff some more. Well, I'm sorry that you have to deal with it. Okay, I'm going to keep telling the truth no matter what you want to believe. But this is where it's like he's already implying that if you say something, well, it has to be absolutely unique argument. Nobody else in the history of the world could have ever come up with this argument in order for it to be yours. Otherwise, you have to quote everybody else all the time. If we did that, nothing would get done. There would be no conversation. Everybody would be too busy trying to search for everybody else's research. Okay? Look, if you find a good argument, okay, I'm telling this to everybody. Christians, evolutionists, it doesn't matter. If you find an argument and say, wow, that's a good argument, I would like to pose that argument. Okay? You can pose that argument. You can claim it for yourself. And look, for the evolutionists, I want to state this clearly. I am making these arguments. I am not Kent Hovind. I am not, Eric Hovind. I am not anybody else. I am making these arguments. So if you want to talk to me, okay? Quit whining about, well, you're saying this and you're using that. Oh, you guys are whining. Stop whining and address the issue, okay? If you started doing that in a live debate, you would lose. That kind of argumentation would not hold up in 2 seconds. They're not going to listen to your whining in a real debate. So anyhow, I do want to, I promise I am working on the issue of trying to get some people on here to, have some live calls and things like that where we can do that. And that's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to start doing that. But again, we don't make much around here, folks. We are investing continually into people. We've given away a lot of materials and things like that. I just don't have the money to continue, or the equipment, basically. We need equipment upgrades in order to continue to do what we're doing here. So I'm working on that as best as I can. And that's all I really wanted to cover today. I didn't want to cover too much as I've got some other things I want to take care of tonight. But what I will do in the future, I am going to be looking up more of these. Now, for Christians and atheists, evolutionists, anybody, if you guys have something you would like me to respond to or something you would like me to take a look at and talk about on the show, all you got to do is send it to me. Send me, a video, or you can send me an article and say, hey, would you respond to this? We'll go ahead and do it on the show. I'll just take the time to do that. That way I don't have to, because I don't want to spend all day, every day doing this kind of thing. But if you send me something, be forewarned, if you send me something and you don't give a name and location, just like I have my email on there. I used to have people all the time, I got to make mention of this, I used to have people all the time would send me a list of, what they considered contradictions in the Bible. I'd have a guy send me a list of 20 different verses, and he says, what are your answers to these? I would go through, I would spend hours answering the whole thing and never hear from them again. What they were doing was just throwing it out there. They probably deleted my email as soon as I got it because they're not really looking for an answer. So what I did is because a lot of them, they would not sign their email. They would just, post this on and they just throw it out there and that'd be it. Just like this potholer guy. I don't know what his name is. I don't know if he posted somewhere. I couldn't find it anywhere on his YouTube channel. And you find a lot of these guys, they are scared to death just to give their first name. It's like they don't want to believe that we're dealing with real people here and that we can have a discussion on some stuff. But they're scared to death of something, and I guess if I didn't have Christ, I'd be scared to death too because, you're always, somebody's out to get you, I guess. I don't know. But anyhow, I'm not out to get you guys, okay? I'm not here. I'm not trying to be your enemy. I'm trying to be your friend. I'm trying to help out here. But the way they treat some of this stuff, just unbelievable, some of the stuff they say. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little off topic here. I just want to get to the point. The thing is, send me something, but you need to send, here's my first name, here's my location. So if I were to send you something, I would say, my name's Chris, I'm from Indiana. Would you take a look at this and respond to it? And send me the link or whatever. So, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll take a look at it and respond to it accordingly as I have time. I don't want to guarantee everybody that I'm going to look at everything anybody sends me, but I certainly will look at it, and I think that's something we'll start to do on a regular basis on the show when we don't have something else planned. So I think that's all we're going to do for today. Again, I want to remind everybody we are not going to have a show next week. I will be at the restaurant speaking and we're going to have a pretty large crowd in there, so you may want to get in early if you want to get some food. They're going to open their doors at 5 p.m., and they're going to stop taking orders at 6:30 because the presentation starts at 7. They want to have all the food out and everything by that time. So if you want to join in on that, we'd love to have you, and hopefully we'll see you next time. The next show is going to be Monday, October 10th, so that'll give you guys a couple weeks if you want to find some good stuff. I actually already have some stuff in my inbox. I had offered this to some people to respond to some things, and I already have some things in my inbox I need to go over, so I will get to your stuff later. If you send me something, it could be some months before I can get to it, but at least I will try to get to it as best as I can. So anyway, I hope you all have a very good evening, and I appreciate you joining us today, and we'll see you next time. All right? Bye-bye.